Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
The recently concluded India Gold Jewellery Summit witnessed the congregation of senior representatives of gold miners, policymakers, retailers, bankers and analysts amongst others from across the globe on a single platform to share opinions and discuss challenges of India's gold and jewellery industry. Day 2 of the summit started with a detailed release on the opening of a gold spot exchange in India and how to further develop the sector. There's a pressing need to reform the gold trading market in India, and a spot exchange encompassing the broad ecosystem for efficient physical trading of gold could play a significant role in reforming the Indian gold market. Vigyan Bhawan, head of precious metals and diamond market at the world-famous Bosa neighborhood of Istanbul, opened the session with an insightful address.
As you know, gold has two functions, as a commodity and as a financial asset. If you look at it, commodity like iron and steel, it's easy, you may say, tax it, of course. It's a financial, but it's a financial asset. It's very hard to distinguish gold from foreign exchange, and it's very easy to carry, and it's very liquid everywhere in the world. If you go with standard gold wherever you are, you can easily liquidate it. So it's very easy to smuggle. When you put tax, what you did is only increasing smuggling, actually, what I think. That's all. It's all go underground. And we did the same 22 years ago. And our respected members now, you would call smugglers 22 years ago.
Since we have Mr. Sahai here with us, let's start with you first of all. You also have been, making a lot of presentations, write-ups, etc. on the gold spot exchange. What is your sense? Where do we need to start with? Because we've seen Turkey, China do that quite successfully, really. And with India as the second largest market after China, what are we lacking? What is the viability here for a gold spot exchange?
So, I think at IGPC, India Gold Policy Center at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, I think 2.5 years ago, we had put out the first paper on setting up the gold spot exchange in India. And one of the things that we said in the paper was that being such a large consumer, we need to be a price setter rather than a price taker. And just that one objective, I think, is more than sufficient for something like a spot exchange to exist, because it allows us to have a reference price. Why should the reference price be set in Shanghai or in London or any other place?
Mr. Jindal, getting you in the conversation here, we of course keep talking about the gold spot exchange as has been in the various forums. Where do you see a major push now that is needed to make it a reality? Because we've all established the fact that it would be useful for the jewelers, for the consumers, B2B jewelers, exporters, importers, everybody. So what is the final push that is needed in that direction now?
As I look at this morning session, which Finance Secretary will also be useful in reducing the timeline for this. Because what we have been able to do this morning, as I look at, to put it in his mind that gold is more important than what he was thinking before coming here. From all angles, job creation, etc., which he knew, but things came in right perspective when he visited here and he heard everybody. Second thing, it is something, if we have to go to next level, there are steps we have to take, and gold spot exchange is one of the steps. We cannot arrive at the next level, higher level, without that. Without infrastructure, how can we do it? Or it will be so slow a process that we will take time and time.
Sanjeev, let me come to you now. The time is ripe, as we all seem to be hearing right now. And Hakan made an excellent presentation on how Istanbul has done it. What is your sense? He spoke about Dubai as well, on the tax part of it, etc. But what has been the learning there, and how do you see India really taking in?
Yeah, if you look at, I'll give you some examples to just let you know what points I'm making. If you look at overall DGCX on the gold products which we have gone ahead and on the, like primarily DGCX is a derivative exchange. So we have many products which have interactions with each other at various levels. So just on the gold side, we have some of the international benchmark contracts listed. We have an Indian contract listed. Then we have a Chinese gold futures contract listed. All these are derivative contracts. When people face these markets and they trade in, let's say, China, US, India, and so on, they are fundamentally trying to, when they physically trade those markets, they're trying to play the physical demand and supply scenarios in those markets, depending upon where they are getting the supply from and where they are supplying it to. These derivative contracts, though they are financial contracts, cash settle products, but we bring in more efficiency in all the trade because we have everything on the same platform by bringing in margin offsets and a lot of other things. Talking about physical contract, we have a Dubai deliverable spot gold contract currently on the platform. So you buy and take delivery in Dubai. That's what the contract is in a nutshell. We have been able to, with the help of DMCC, which has its own trade flow systems and DGD system which it controls, we have very set mechanism which we are using with the help of the other entities, basically using the ecosystem which is available around us to promote a contract and make it available, discover the price, which is very important. So, like, for example, if I ask for India price, what is India gold price? People look at MCX, people look at Ahmedabad spot, maybe polled by MCX or generally through various platforms, OTC platforms, or etc. etc. I mean, so if people look at, let's say, what is Dubai price, I mean, of course, I can say that now you can look at DGCX spot gold price, that is Dubai price because it's getting traded and getting delivered.
Shivanshu, let me come to you first because everybody has spoken and we would really want a perspective on the exchange right now because when the whole thing about the gold spot exchange had started, we know that commodity exchanges had shown interest. A lot of bullion federations and associations had shown interest as well to launch this. Where is that now? How is it going to be different from a proper commodity derivative exchange?
Coming to what exactly is required and where the current status is, as Manisha asked, first and foremost, a regulator is essential, given the history of how spot markets have recently, recent memory. Second is institutions and banks need to participate on it to make it liquid. Third is, as far as the state list versus the central list is concerned, APMCs and spot being a state subject versus a gold cannot be viewed in the same light as an agricultural commodity. So number three, the taxation aspect has to be looked at. A lot of us have talked about a benchmark price. So, MCX has served for the past 13-14 years as a benchmark price in many ways. At that time, there was no GST. But now with GST having come in, the difference really is only the logistics price, the cost of logistics. So we're already seeing a sort of a salience building up for a central price. That spot exchange will also help create.
Let me just come to Rahul. Tell me, in India, if we require something, if it was desperately needed, don't you think this very enterprising community of gold traders would have already formed it? What is the impediment and therefore why the sudden talk? Is it just in these forums or is it really required at the ground level? I mean, you are the right person, you are a bullion trader, so tell us.
Thank you. We are representing both bullion traders and refiners both. And yes, you're right, there's a million people who are involved into it and they feel that tomorrow if the exchange comes, then it'll be difficult for them to be in the supply chain. One of the value addition which can come in, being a GJEPC forum and I'm a jewelry exporter myself, GJEPC has been fighting for export purpose gold to small and big exporters since last 20-25 years. If a contract for export purpose gold is also there in the spot exchange, it is going to change demographics. It is going to resolve the challenge for the gold availability for small exporters through the exchange to a great deal, and will add the business to the bullion dealers, which as of now is only with the bankers. It's only the bankers who supply export purpose gold to the jewelers. The moment we have a contract dealing with the export purpose gold on the exchange, in this spot exchange, it is going to add business, it is going to add ease to the jewelry exporters. As we had Mr. Adhia here today morning, and he was saying that jewelry exports must promote. So with this process, the micro and small exporters are going to add substantially. And the GST coming in picture, already we have OTC platforms adding up. There were bullion dealers who were having the branches across the country, say 5 branches, 10 branches in over the states. Now they've started their OTC platforms because they can store the stock anywhere. And the EFP, as what MCX was mentioning, that EFP variation is the only thing what they quote on their platforms.
Thank you very much.
Till date, substantial amount of speculation exists in the gold and jewellery industry about the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and clarity about the GST implementation on gold is still often sought by the industry. To shed more light on both these issues, GJEPC invited Balesh Kumar, Principal ADG, Directorate General of GST Intelligence, to address the audience.
Why gold has become vulnerable? High volume of transactions of very low value happening through cash intensive business. And this is not only true of India, it's true globally, across the world. Anonymity of participants. And here, again, the organized sector, you do come to know the identity which is disclosed between the two ends of the transactions. But on the unorganized sector, and particularly if you are recycling of gold, right? Somebody in my family taking the old gold back home, from home to the market and buying the new jewelry, she can't be traced out. It's a highly acceptable medium of exchange. Gold can almost be 90% as liquid as cash. It is also an investment in a country like India to stabilize the returns, where you can often see high volatility in your stock market, and it is highly amenable to smuggling. These are the factors which make gold very vulnerable to trade-based money laundering.
Sir, what would a bullion seller, maybe it's a jeweler, maybe it's a bullion dealer who would sell it to him, how would he get to know whether the money is ill-gotten? I mean, there will be, as per my understanding, there will be ill-gotten, because there is no case where a jeweler would get to know that the person who's bringing the money, there will be no reason for him to believe that it's an ill-gotten money.
Thank you very much for this question, a very relevant and very pertinent question. Look, there is no expectation from the reporting entities that he should be able to actually act as an investigator or as an intelligence officer. He cannot know whether it is ill-gotten money or not. The only insistence is, as and when the PMLA regulatory framework comes into effect, is to know the identity of your client, right? And if you have done your due diligence, your duty gets over with that. So you cannot be troubled by any team of officers under Mr. Gupta. All right? So, if DK wants to add to it, please.
Basically, the thing is that by bringing this under reporting entity, the dealers in precious stones and jewelry and all, and this is because a few years back, even the banks were facing this problem when they were initially brought into this embed. So it is not as if the person who is selling or who is making the transaction with that person, other person, he is required to give a finding that this is ill-gotten money. It is only the suspicion which he has to report, that this is something suspicious, that his behavior is suspicious, or he is coming to me again and again without any rhyme or reason, or he doesn't have any knowledge about that particular item, like even in this diamonds and precious stones and all, the other person may not be having any knowledge about it. He just have money, maybe a lot of cash with him, and he just wants to buy from you. So there could be a lot of suspicions or a lot of like his body language and all those things which could raise a suspicion in your mind that something is fishy. So that probably is required to be reported, and then it is for the FIU and maybe the Enforcement Directorate and other agencies to take it up. And finally, whether the money is tainted money or not tainted money, even the investigator, he can only investigate, but it is finally the court who will give a finding that as to whether that particular money is tainted or not tainted.
Let me just put this into context, because we have two sections to the industry. A 24 billion exporting industry from diamonds, which follows the best norms all over the world and is compliant in jurisdictions all over the world. And then you have a trade which is the jewelry trade, which is happening in every nook and corner of this country, where every person, no matter how poor, is a potential buyer. Now, from what I'm hearing is that really this is a partnership, and you are calling upon the industry to aid the regulators to find certain people who are bringing this sort of illicit money into the main economy. But I must speak, and maybe speak out of turn on behalf of industry, that industry is not educated that this is a partnership where they have to help you. Industry feels that this is a regulation they have to follow, and if they don't follow it, they face consequence of closure of business, of penalties, of being named and shamed in the media.
I think we cannot sway on either sides. We cannot say that PMLA is something entirely useless, because if this industry has to gain the credibility and to grow both domestically and internationally, I think they will have to come up with their own self-regulation mechanisms which will establish their credibility worldwide. For that, this act is an enabling thing. And at the same time, the apprehensions which Mr. Rohan Shah and other industry members have, they are also very real. They are not imaginary. So therefore, some balancing is there. The recent example that we have is last year when Ashok Lahiri committee was made to handle the issue of excise. Now, excise was something, when it was introduced, it came as a panic to the industry. They said probably now excise has powers of arresting a person, seizing his entire inventory. The person will suddenly be totally, his inventory will be seized, he'll be put behind bars. It is something like Gold Control Act, which is being brought back. Now, this committee played such a wonderful role of balancing that I must compliment the way it was conducted. It had people from the TRU, it had people from various enforcement wings of the Department of Revenue. It had a representative from the Commerce Ministry, it had a representative from industries, and a balancing act was very wonderfully done.
ये साल की शुरुआत हमारी हुई है पहले एक्साइज से. हमने पूरे इंडिया में 50 के ऊपर प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज किए, लोगों को सॉफ्टवेयर में भी चेंज कराया एक्साइज समझाने में. एक्साइज पूरी तरह समझ में नहीं आई तो डिमोनेटाइजेशन हो गया. डिमोनेटाइजेशन में से बाहर नहीं निकले तो जीएसटी आ गया. जीएसटी अभी तक ऑफिसर को, कस्टमर को भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, अलग अलग परसेप्शन है. वो जाने के बाद में अभी होल मार्किंग में कुछ नॉन प्रैक्टिकल लॉ की डिस्कशन चल रही है. होल मार्किंग का हम स्वागत करते हैं, लेकिन उसमें भी कुछ नॉन प्रैक्टिकल बातें चल रही है. साथ में पीएमएलए. पीएमएलए का तो नाम सुनते से सर गोल्ड कंट्रोल से भी ज्यादा डर लगता है सबको, क्योंकि 15 से 25% वैल्यू एडिशन वाली इंडस्ट्री में कौन कैसे 2 नंबर 3 नंबर का या 1 नंबर का पैसा पार्क करेगा, ये मेरे समझ के परे है. कोई भी अपने रुपए का 12 आना करना नहीं चाहेगा. और करने के लिए सर किसी कंट्री ने किसी जगह पे किसी टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटीज में कहीं फंड इन्वॉल्व हो गया, ये तो वो बात होगी क्लास के अंदर एक बच्चे ने कोई मिसयूज करी और वो आइडेंटिफाई नहीं हो रहा, पूरे क्लास को पनिशमेंट हो रही है. तो सर ये पूरी क्लास पनिशमेंट उसके लिए कैसे करे. लेकिन यस, हम कंसर्न समझते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट ने एफटीए साइन किया है, गवर्नमेंट उसका एक पार्ट है. वो ऐसा आना चाहिए जो बिजनेस फ्रेंडली हो, ज्वेलरी फ्रेंडली हो, गवर्नमेंट का भी काम हो जाए और ज्वेलर्स भी हट ना हो और करप्शन भी ना बढ़े और ट्रेड भी आगे बढ़े. थैंक यू.
Before we disperse, I take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to Shri Suresh Prabhuji, Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister, Mrs. Rita Tiatraji, who is the Commerce Secretary, Mr. Hasmukh Adiaji, who is our Revenue Secretary, and Mr. Manoj Dwivedi, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. I would also like to thank our Chairman, Mr. Praveen Shankar Pandya, for his visionary leadership and guidance. Special thanks to the Jewellery Panel Committee, whom you all know already, and also I would like to thank our regional chairman, who have made this possible. As a regional chairman of the host city Delhi, I once again welcome you again and thank you so much coming here. The most important part which I would like to acknowledge and tell across the GJEPC team from across the board had worked very hard to make this a success. I would like a very loud applause to all of them. Please applaud.
The two-day summit was a massive success, and for the first time ever, gold and jewellery entrepreneurs of India were able to interact with industry experts, international counterparts and government representatives under one roof. And the summit wrapped up with an unequivocal message that India's gold and jewellery industry has immense opportunities and a bright future ahead.